Uh, yeah, it's been a whirlwind. A lot of changes in the athletic department, as you shared, but all great things. I think Chancellor Lyons is really leading into a kind of a co-business model by elevating Jay and Jenny to co-athletic directors while also having Ron oversee pretty much everything football related. But what I will say is that a lot of what Ron still has some not struggles but hurdles to get over. This is his first time working in college athletics, and college athletics is a lot different than the NFL. So he goes to Jay and Jenny once in a while to ask them questions and try to get some assistance on certain things that he just doesn't have the knowledge about as of right now. It's going to be a learning experience for him. So things are going well. I Jim probably has been to more football practices than me this fall camp. I have been on the road with Ron a lot and getting him in front of donors, and so I haven't really been up at practice as much as I hoped to. But when I was up there, there were a lot of um, things that shined. I'm really excited about our young quarterback, and our receivers are, I think, very slept on across the ACC. And our offensive line is large, and there's a lot of them, so there's a lot of depth there. And then just along the lines of the athletic department, we're really looking forward to a fun season. Obviously, a lot of new places. I think the marquee away game this year is going to be Boston College. We're really looking forward to a big contingency of folks out there. We actually just kind of closed up ticket sales on that last week because Boston College requested a portion of their ticket allotment back because it's going to be announced to sell out next week. So we're going to have a few road games in front of a lot of fans, and we're looking forward to some travel. And that's pretty much all I got as in regard to the athletic department. I mean, here to answer any questions anyone may have.
Yeah, if I should have mentioned before, if anybody has questions, please go ahead and put them into chat. But as of right now, does anybody have any questions for Alex? Um, I guess I'm going to start with the first one. So, how have you, we've talked a little bit about this. Um, how has it been for you with all of the changes in the entire organizational structure of the athletic department? How has your role changed, if at all?
My role has not changed. My role is pretty black and white. My responsibility is to raise money for um, our athletic department, specifically our Fight for California initiative, which is football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and then within that, my main focus is pretty much all things football. So regardless of who the leadership is, at the end of the day, my responsibility is raising funds for football, and we've done a really good job. We obviously had a record year last year, raised $82 million. We had our Fight for California football challenge, which raised two plus million in just over 8 days. And when I look at that, I always think like there's not too many schools that can really do that in the country, and makes me incredibly grateful to work at the University of California, Berkeley, and work with Cal Athletics. And um, the one thing that really has changed is, I mean, Ron has made me and a few others look like the best fundraisers in the world. I mean, more folks are getting involved now that he's picking up the phone and calling them, or he's sending out an email. I mean, I've been here for, it's going to be my fifth football season, and I've sent out plenty of emails that look exactly like his, and he gets responses while I was kind of just ghosted. So it definitely helps. And there's just a new, I don't know, energy in the facility when he's around. Like there's a reason why he was a two-time NFL head coach of the year. So he brings a winning mindset to the facility and wants everybody to strive for greatness and be their best version of themselves. And he's going to push you to be better. And if you're not doing good things, he's going to call you out on it. So on the other side with Jay and Jenny, I like I shared. I mean, I'm working with football a bunch, and with Ron kind of overseeing football. I have a little bit of interaction with Jay and Jenny, and um, yeah, I think this year is gonna there's gonna be a lot of learning moments, and we're in a good place. There, it's a divide and conquer mentality with them, and they spoke to our student athletes yesterday at our welcome back barbecue, and shared a lot of great ideas that are going to come to fruition this academic year, and um, yeah, all things are good on that front.
Got a couple of questions here. Alex, I'm going to ask you these two because they're sort of related. From Greg, do you know how many tickets we sold for the BC game, and also how are season ticket sales doing this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I was just sent the BC ticket buyer list this afternoon about 16 minutes ago. Looking at it, we sold about just under 1,500, and that's strictly just through us, right? So, you have to account for the third parties. I know Rip Hunter has a group going out there, so that's not accounted for in this as well. So, I mean, it's just another opportunity to go to the East Coast and make another East Coast City Bear territory, right? We've done it time and time again on a lot of the road trips. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that one a lot. There's a Red Sox game on Friday night. It's actually the Red Sox last home series of um, their regular season, and then a tailgate the next day. I mean, there's this. I can't predict the future, and obviously the ACC has the deciding choice. But um, I have this sense in the pit of my stomach that that's probably going to be a late afternoon or night game. Um, so yeah, it should be a fun one.
And then one more related question just came in about how many tickets, do you know how many tickets were sold for Oregon State this weekend?
I do not know. Typically, I'll pull the ticket buyer list for the games that I'm traveling with. I actually have a wedding this weekend to attend, so I'm not going to Oregon State. It's the probably one away game this season I'm not going to go to. So I did not pull a ticket buyer list for that game. Um, but that one should be, I mean, similar to how a lot of schools look at us. Like, there's a lot of mysteries. I like being mysterious as a program, and we get to go to Oregon State and go punch them in the mouth, and they're not expecting it. And I think Oregon State has a lot of mysteries as well. This is gonna. I hope I'm not wrong in saying this, but I think this is their first season in their full new stadium. I want to say maybe last year or the year before they only used half of it. So it should be a pretty packed house. I'm not too sure on how many folks from Cal are going to be traveling up north. But yeah,
Another question came in from Dwayne. Besides the obvious reason of not having opposing teams scout our practices, is there any other reasons why practices were closed to the public this year, unlike other past years?
I do not have an answer for that. I'm sorry. I,
Okay.
I have no knowledge on
Okay.
that. On those decisions, I don't sit in those meetings. It's, that's up here, I would
Okay.
say. Down here.
Okay. All right. Richard would like to know how do you think NIL is working for Cal this year?
Yeah, I think we're similar to a lot of schools. We are trying our absolute best to kind of keep a lot of the knowledge and figures in house. Just so, like, if we had a recruit that was between Cal and, I don't know, let's say University of Washington, and that was their two final schools that they were deciding on. We don't want it to be a factor in that with the schools being able to share what we're doing. So we're in a good place. As I'm sure many of you may have read, like the chancellor matched $6 million to football, $1.5 million to men's basketball, and 500K to women's basketball, with those being our top three initiatives. Um, so it's going well. We raised a bunch of money. We have a very, very talented roster, significantly spent more than years in the past. So we're in a really good place, and we've made a lot of really good additions, and we have a really good portal. So I would say NAL and revenue sharing is what we're using the term now, is going well. Everything's kind of in-house now. So yeah, all thumbs up across the board.
Hey, question from Joe. Are all the football staff feeling the pressure of Ron Rivera's reported expectation for a good season, being 8 or 9 wins? And if they are feeling that pressure, does the staff feel well supported by him in striving for more wins, for this season and into the future?
Yeah, I think everyone feels pressure, right? I think what the term I've been using over the past month that I actually picked up from a football podcast was potential. Everybody has potential, but potential just means you have the opportunity to be great, or do well. So across the board, I would probably say all FBS programs are in the same boat right now, probably saying this could be our year. So we're not the only ones saying that. But with that potential comes pressure, right? Because you want to perform, you want to win games, you want to put up. I mean, people say 8-win seasons, but I think everybody here would be ecstatic of 10-win season. So you always want to say you want a 10-win season or a 12-win season. So I would say the pressure wise, I mean, he doesn't bring a sense of pressure. No one feels as if they're on the hot seat because it's 0-0. Same with a lot of other schools. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone knows that in the facility, like, we need to win football games. We need to win football games now. We have a 2 to 3 year window till um, the next conference realignment. So the time is now to win, and we're doing everything that we possibly can to go all in on winning right now. And yeah, that might be pressuresome to some, but at the end of the day, like, the job of a football coach is to win games. So yeah.
And are the second part of the question was, does the football staff feel supported by Ron?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see him in there and watch how coaching staffs interact with him. They pepper him with questions. I mean, he's been around the block. So yes, I would say there's a sense of support. I mean, he has an office up there, so he's up there every day with them, in all meetings.
Yeah. And just one last quick question. What's the estimated attendance for the home game against Texas Southern? Do we have any numbers on that?
I do not have any numbers on that, but something that's really cool that's going on is I don't know if any of y'all follow Marshawn Lynch on Instagram, but he's giving away 5,000 tickets for free. So if anybody needs a ticket, go to Marshawn Lynch's Instagram, click the link, and our goal for that game is to get as many butts in the seats as possible. So I don't have a for sure number for y'all. I mean, I think it's a tough game. One's always a tough part of the year because some folks might still be traveling for vacation, but I mean, season ticket numbers could look a whole lot different to actual butts and seats, just based off who actually comes.
All right, Alex, thank you for the information.
Yes,
As
absolutely.
always. And when we get the meeting set with Ron, I hope to see you there again.
Oh yeah, we look forward to it.
All right, great. All
All
right,
right.
Alex, thanks very much.
Yes.
All right. Always good information. So now that we've heard about Cal, we are playing Oregon State this weekend. So let's hear a little bit about Oregon State. So I'd like to introduce Angie Machado from beaverblitz.com. Angie, what's going on up north?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I didn't realize I was muted. I'm sorry.
No worries. So yeah, they're looking forward to year two under head coach Trent Bray, who took over once Jonathan Smith left for Michigan State. And a lot of excitement. Oregon State had a rough 5-7 season last year, started out really strong and ended kind of on a bad note. But I would say defense is much improved this year. New quarterback in Malik Murphy, who transferred in from Duke, and some great pieces there. Some question marks as always, but yeah, there's a lot of optimism in Corvallis right now.
All right, so what do you see as kind of the interesting matchups for the game this weekend?
Yeah, my two biggest question marks for Oregon State is the offensive and defensive line. Offensive line has been really, really dinged up. Throughout spring and fall camp. So that's an interesting one I'm watching. And that's where my big question mark actually lies, is just how decent this Oregon State offensive line can be. You can do a lot to kind of stunt around that, but watching them go up against a formidable, stout, Cal defense will be always, major key in my mind. And then flip side, the other side of the ball, defensive line. Oregon State only had 7 sacks last year in the whole season. So I want to see some pressure. I want to see them get after that true freshman quarterback. So I think that the up front trenches is going to be the big one, especially with Cal's front on the offensive side. I think that's going to be a big matchup.
Mhm. So I'm going to ask you this question, and please, like before, everybody, go ahead and put questions in chat for Angie. And I'm going to ask this of Jim, so he's got a little preview of it. With all of the differences now with the transfer portal and with uh, especially the spring portal where when the coaches are evaluating their teams in the spring and then all of a sudden so many people disappear, how do you evaluate a team? Knowing
Yeah.
so many differences.
Yeah, I think that is probably one of the biggest question marks for college football going forward is how do you, in the NFL, you have guys signed to contracts and you can actually build a roster. You can't do that in college football right now with guys that will be leaving and coming and going. And that's across the board, not just Oregon State. I do think Oregon State has been positioned in a pretty decent realm in that Coach Bray has a really strong culture right now, and in that program, he's been able to keep some guys that maybe had some offers to go elsewhere, just to be on that team and try to lead them. They like Oregon State as an academic institution. They like Oregon State from a football standpoint. So I think that has been positive. But honestly, that is I think the big, huge kind of elephant in the room that we're going to have to really look at as an entire industry. I've been around college athletics for, God, 25 years now. I started out as a fundraiser at Oregon State before taking over Beaver Blitz 20 years ago. So it is a big change, and it's something that's going to have to be addressed, I think, from SEC to the smaller programs.
It looks like Alex agrees with you on that. I had a question come in from Dave. OSU spent a reported $1.5 million to bring in the quarterback. Were they able to bring in any other significant transfers?
Yeah, this was a really good year for the transfer portal for Oregon State. Needed a quarterback. That was one of the big problems last season was Oregon State became very one-dimensional. They had quarterbacks that couldn't get the ball downfield, so they became a one-dimensional run-first team. That's, I think, down the stretch really why Oregon State struggled. So, they go out, they got actually, were able to land Malik Murphy, paid $1.5 million is what we've heard. And that wasn't the whole amount, that wasn't all NIL. It wasn't Oregon State didn't spend their entire NIL war chest on one player. They did spread it around, but they brought in some transfers that I'm really excited about. I mentioned the defensive front and really the lack of a pass rush last season. Kai Wallen is one I'm watching. He's actually from Sacramento, played at American River College. I believe he went to Jesuit, but he came in from Nebraska, transferred in. He's an edge rusher. I look for him to start against Cal, so that'll be a one to watch, big transfer. Rajon Davis, an inside linebacker from USC. really fits that mold of what Trent Bray wants. He's rangy, he's fast, he can go sideline to sideline. I really like what he brings, and I expect him to start as well.
Richard wants to know, why do OSU fans seem to dislike Cal so much now? Is it just because we jumped ship and went to the ACC?
I think that's, I think Oregon State and Washington State fans do a kind of, I mean, excuse my language, it pissed them off. I mean, we could have kind of stayed together in a group of four and rebuilt the thing. And, Cal and Stanford wanted nothing to do with that. So, yeah, I think there is a little chip on the shoulder, from Oregon State and Cougar fans, and that Cal kind of deserted them, especially when, Cal was one of the founding members of the old Pac-8 West Coast Conference. And there was a long history there. They felt abandoned. And so fans are a little salty, I think, still. I think that's going to be something that's going to be hard for, and I think maybe across the entire Pac 12, what that used to be the Pac 12. I mean, obviously USC and UCLA started the whole domino, but and then you had, Oregon and Washington kind of jump. But I think there was a feeling that the four were going to band together and to watch Cal and Stanford jump ship. That I think it rubs some fans the wrong way.
Yeah, well, Leslie has a comment in chat, and I think that she wants you to pass the word along that UCLA and USC are the schools that to be mad at, not us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's, and to be fair, Oregon State, if I mean, everybody back channels were working. I mean, that was something everybody, yeah, USC, like I said, USC and UCLA were the ones that started that domino. And Oregon State and Washington State are the ones on the outside looking in. But I think what the Pac-12 is rebuilding, it's going to be a really fun conference. There's going to be some fun matchups, and they're getting creative. I mean, adding Dallas Baptist for baseball, that's a good move because they're a strong program, and Oregon State needs somebody in the Pac-12 for baseball then to kind of help that out. Gonzaga, talk of maybe St. Mary's joining for basketball. So they're getting creative in how they do this, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
yes, I have a question from Joe that I'm actually going to add a little bit of commentary on myself. Joe's question is with head coach Bray serving also as defensive coordinator, does this mean that OSU defense is a major concern going into the season? Has enough focus been placed on improving the OSU offense? And my comment on that is I think, and this is my own personal opinion, nobody else has said this, but that one of Cal's offensive problems last year, the problem with the offense, was that our offensive coordinator was serving two major roles, offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. And I think that those are two jobs that should, if they're going to be a coach or something else, like maybe a position coach, like offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, or wide receiver coach or something like that. But I think that Mike Lesh was spread too thin. So I just kind of that commentary as part of Joe's question.
Yeah, I took a step back. So Oregon State last season actually had Keith Hayward come in and serve as the defensive coordinator. He's back with Cal now after, but he's an Oregon State alum. I knew Keith when he played at Oregon State, so great coach for you guys, and I have tons of respect for him. But the defense last year was not a Coach Bray defense. Even if they were trying to run Coach Bray's defense, it wasn't the aggressive, multiple set looks. Coach Bray was able to turn the defense around from Tim Tibesar when he took over as defensive coordinator under Jonathan Smith in a matter of like a game. It was amazing what he was able to do. He has a plan in place. He's grown up around football. His dad was a former defensive coordinator under Coach Dennis Erickson. And what he did, and he's a second year head coach. I mean, this is his first go around, but I love what he did in that, yeah, he doesn't want to spread himself too thin. There's a lot of the head coaching stuff that he doesn't necessarily need to handle on a day-to-day basis. So he went out and got a veteran coach in Rob Akey, who had coached with his dad, was a head coach at Washington State, was a head coach at Idaho, tons of experience. He brought Rob Akey in as an assistant to the head coach. And Coach Akey actually helps do kind of run practice when they're actually going 11v11. Coach Akey's the one kind of standing back, running, directing things, while Coach Bray's the defensive coordinator. Also brought Mark Kreiner in from Missouri to help with the linebackers. And be another real veteran presence with that defense. So he does wear a couple hats, but he brought in people around him to surround him that can help him with some of that day-to-day stuff, both on the defensive side and on the head coaching side. So I really, I've known Coach Bray since he was a player at Oregon State, and he seems super comfortable in this role. And so that's last year you could tell it was all new to him, but talking with the media, he's comfortable. He likes where this team is at and likes where his place with that team.
So with that, is the defense a major concern, and has there been good focus on the offense as well?
Oh, absolutely. Defense, I actually, last year, if you look at Oregon State's defense, and like I said, this is my 20th football season, and I've never seen anything like this. That, I have my post-fall camp depth chart going into the season. Oregon State had 17 of those 22 guys that missed big chunks of the season. They were starting, true freshmen were having to be thrown in. This was last season. It was a rough go. Now the benefit now is those guys are back and the young guys have experience. So defense, to be completely honest, should be a big step up this year. What I saw from practice, the fall practices we were able to watch, this is a team that is aggressive. They have that swagger. Coach Bray, like I said, he grew up with the Dennis Erickson, coaching tree, and he has his defenses play with that aggression and that swagger. You'll see multiple sets. You'll see disguised blitzes. He makes it very, very difficult for an offense to know what they're planning to do. Offensively, you talk about that. So defense, I actually feel that defense will be the strength of this team this year. So I'm excited about that. I think the secondary is much improved and the depth there is crazy. And then the outside edge rushers, like I said, 7 total sacks last season. 7. The whole season. It's crazy. It was horrible. I do expect them to get some more pressure this year on the quarterback, barring injury. Offensively, I really think, you bring back Anthony Hankerson, who was really a thunder of a running back. We had Jam Griffin and he got hurt midway through the season, but he was kind of the lightning. Then you have your thunder. But this year you bring in Salah Allah. He added 25, 30 pounds this offseason. Great low center of gravity, but super fast. And then Hankerson is just that bowling ball of a running back. So you got that amazing quarterback in Malik Murphy. He is imposing. He's 6'5", tall, has a cannon for an arm. And so I'm excited to see what that, last year, Giovanni McCoy, just good quarterback, but couldn't get it down the field. So, and then you bring back Trent Walker at wide receiver. You have a couple wide receivers there along with a really strong tight end group. So I do think, I said my concern was Oregon State's offensive line play. I expect to see a lot of double tight sets, bring in some tight ends to help shore things up. Those tight ends can also catch the ball out of the backfield. So there's a lot of weapons there. This team will be much improved.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a couple quick last questions. Is the game this week a sellout?
I believe so. I haven't heard yay or nay on that, but I believe it's a sellout. Now, school doesn't start. The classes don't get started till the end of September at Oregon State. So student section, I'm curious to see how full that will be. I mean, without school in session, it could be a little quieter, but Beaver Nation is pretty pumped.
And just also a quick one, Tom, would like to know how do the fans feel about these 7:30 games?
Yeah, they're not huge fans of 7:30. I don't know if Cal fans, I know in the old Pac-12 days, those 7:30 kicks were, especially, Oregon State, majority of their fan base is in Portland, which is about an hour and a half away. So makes for late nights for fans. But I think looking ahead, with the departure of the Pac-12 or the schools that went to the Pac-12, now the rebuilding of the new Pac-12, I think that's going to be just something that's going to be part of going forward. I mean, those TV networks are going to need those late night games. They need the inventory. So Pac-12, I mean, I'm sure the ACC is going to line you guys up for some 7:30 kicks as well, just for that the TV audience. So it is what it is being on the West Coast. It's not fun those late nights. I myself live outside of Portland, so it's a trek, but I think it also adds to an atmosphere that you might not get at a 12:30 kick too.
Yeah. All right. So Angie, our final question, and I don't know if you remember this from the last time you joined us, but you have to answer it.
Okay.
No getting
I'm
out
ready.
of it. All right. What is your prediction for the final score?
Okay, I just did this for Beaver Blitz for our staff prediction that I'll run on Friday. I can see this going one of two ways. I could see Oregon State winning by 10, I could see it being a close one, and I actually picked Cal winning a really close, tough one here. 20-21 Cal is what I had, and I really think it comes down to O-line. Like I said, I've seen a lot of Oregon State now going against the Oregon State defensive line. If there's anyone that can help this offensive line, it's Oregon State's new offensive line coach and Mike Kavanaugh, one of the best in the business. He returned after Kyle DeVan left for the NFL, but I just have some question marks there. The former walk-on is making a start at guard. Just has me questioning. And you guys know if the offensive line can't block and can't protect Malik, it doesn't matter. He could be Tom Brady back there and struggle. So yeah, I went 20-21 Cal.
All right. Well, thank you, Angie. Always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Everybody give her a big hand, and we appreciate all the information, and hope for a great game on Saturday and that is injury free.
Yes, that was what I was going to say. Just hope it's a good game and nobody gets hurt.
Right. Exactly. All right, Angie, thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
All right. So now, our tradition for our first game, our first meeting of the season. This has been going on for many, many, many years now. And it really is a tradition here. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Jim McGill, who I'm sure has a lot of information for us. He's been following the Bears through practice. So Jim, what can we expect this year?
Well, that's kind of a good question, Gary. I didn't get to see much of fall camp because they closed practice to the media too, but I did see all three scrimmages. The third one really wasn't anything. It was fourth and fifth string guys, the bottom of the 105-man roster. But there's a lot of things to like about this team, but there's so much to see how it all comes together. And I know everybody has the same questions. How is a talented true freshman quarterback going to adjust once the bullets are flying live rather than in scrimmages or practices with contact? How's the offensive line going to come together with all the new depth and a really good new young coach? The defense replaced four draft picks, so a lot of talent. And how are these guys going to step in and do? I mean, you can look at the individual players. You can look at how they fit into the system. You can look at the new coaching staff and look at the schedule, which is, I think, the easiest in my lifetime, and think this team has the ingredients for a 7-9 win season. But it's really hard if you don't see the majority of the practices and you don't see live scrimmages. It's just really hard to get particularly a strong read on how the team's going to come together. But we can address the individual positions and talk about who's going to be starting and who might be impact guys. But overall, I think that the media and fans in general are sleeping on what this team can do this season, particularly because it is such a favorable schedule without playing Clemson and Miami and Florida State. They weren't good last year, but they typically are pretty good. Georgia Tech is supposed to be one of the more solid teams. They don't play them either. So they have a lot of things in their favor this year. And I am expecting pleasant surprises.
So who do you think are some of the standouts this year, and what do you think of our freshman quarterback?
I'm a little surprised that they pulled the trigger and started Jaron right from the jump. But I see that as a good sign because we've all seen staffs that have been conservative with quarterbacks and maybe favored experience over um, talent and potential. And from what I saw in the limited practices in the fall, and I did see a lot in the spring before they didn't close it in the spring until towards the end. Um, I do like his talent, and he definitely was outperforming Brown. So I think that from a talent standpoint, they made the right call. So I think Jaron is going to be a guy that may start a little bit shaky initially. I don't expect them to see them march down the field right away in the first drive or even the second drive, but I think once he settles in, I think he's going to have a pretty solid game against Oregon State. The media asked him, what are his thoughts about his first start being on the road as a true freshman? And he said, "Yeah, I kind of welcome it. I thrive on the uh, the atmosphere when a crowd is against you and you come together as a team." So it was kind of a fun thing to hear. And he smiles a lot. He's not under pressure like you might think a true freshman would be being put into a position like he is. So I'm excited to see how he does this year. He definitely has the arm talent. The question is, can he identify defenses and avoid making the wrong throw if he's not picking up something the defense is doing? But he's got a great arm and he's very accurate. He's very skilled, very smooth.
So I have a couple questions related to this. So Steve was asking, and who else was asking? And Joe was asking, basically, it's kind of the same question. Do you have a sense that this is a make or break season for Coach Wilcox and his future at Cal?
Yeah, I do. Um, there was a $15 million buyout heading into this season, which is way too high. But if you cannot put together a solid season, a minimum of 7 games, but more like 8 or 9, like Ron Rivera said was kind of his standard for a solid season. In year 9, with an easy schedule like they have, when is it ever going to happen? You can't keep coming back and doing the same thing over and over again. It doesn't fly. And as they're trying to position themselves to get into a potential super conference in a few years, you just can't slide by with 6 and 7 seasons or 7 and 6 seasons and think that everything's going to be okay, because in all likelihood it won't be.
Dave would like to know, thank you. Dave would like to know, what are your thoughts on Grays? It sounded like he was going to be a weapon, but was injured last season and is now second string this year.
I like him a lot. He's super athletic, really talented, quick, runs good routes, but um, I don't know about his reliability, honestly, whether that be from a physical standpoint, if he can take the pounding or consistent effort. I just have to see him do it for at least a few games in a row, and he just hasn't been able to put it together at Cal. So I didn't think that he would be named a starter. If he did it on potential, sure, but it's based on production. It's not based on potential.
Right, right. So Dwayne was asking, he said Dwayne read an interesting article about Cal deciding to stick with walk-ons, given our success with them in the past, like Tron Grizel and Endries and Ashton Davis and Patrick Laird, even though it will cost us some of our 105 scholarships, whereas most schools will be kind of abandoning the walk-ons. Is Ron Rivera good with that? Is he okay with that?
Yeah, he's more than okay with it, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of schools use 105 scholarships, honestly. I think, if they don't emphasize the walk-on program, they'll just have less guys on the team. Most programs can't afford 105 scholarships. And I don't think Cal thinks that they have 105 guys out there that they feel like are good enough contributors to give a scholarship to. So they're perfectly fine with going over the previous 85 to whatever amount they need to feel like they've got guys they really want, 89, 90 guys. And if they have to push it above that, they can and will. But I think they're going to use up the rest of those slots every year with developmental guys they think may be good enough, but they're not quite sure.
Okay, so Joe had a question. What is your confidence level with Brian Harson's approach and scheme? And do you think that it's that the Bears are gonna show a significant improvement on offense this year?
If you look at his experience as an offensive coordinator at Boise State, they went 61-5 when he was OC there. And, it's tempting to say, well, they did it against lesser competition. And a lot of it was, but they won 2 Fiesta Bowls during those 5 seasons too. One of them was the famous Statue of Liberty play against Oklahoma. That was just a classic.
Mhm.
Listening to Nick Rolovich, his offensive assistant, he had a lot of really good things to say about Harson's offense facing him in the past and how difficult it was to plan against the way that he executed the offense, how he found ways to do things against individual teams' defenses that were hard to counter. And now that he's working with them one on one, he's saying, "Boy, there's so many things that I'm seeing here that if I could have just incorporated it when I was a head coach, I would have been able to be more effective too." So you listen to things like that, and it gives you good hope. I didn't get a good sense for exactly what style in general we're going to see from the offense this year, but he is very imaginative. I did see a lot of jet sweeps, and there was there was a trick play that would make it to ESPN top 10 plays of the week if it was executed in a game that happened recently in a scrimmage. So there's going to be creativity, and I think he's a guy that's not a crazy gunslinger, but if he sees the right opportunity to catch the defense on its heels, he'll execute some things that people aren't expecting to see happen.
Do you think that that his approach, that his style or the game plan that he's looking at bringing in was part of the reason that we lost so many players on offense to the portal?
No, the portal has been a situation where the program's lost, two or three guys that they'd like to hold on to, and the rest were kind of eased off into the portal. The dynamics have changed recently where it was harder to hold on to some of the guys, but part of it was related to personnel changes. With Harsin coming in, he wanted his own guys, and with Aristotle Thompson going out, and the players didn't really like the way that it ended up going down. He wasn't fired, but it wasn't going to be an easy situation for him to stay either. And I don't think they like that. And with him going, um, and having a totally different style with the Julian Griffin, the new running back replacement coach, that sort of pushed things in the direction more aggressively portal wise. Um, Mendoza was a unique situation too. He felt like the staff undervalued him and were always looking for somebody to replace him with, somebody better than him. And those are dynamics that aren't typical to this Cal program. And that helped drive a little bit more in the loss department in the portal. And there was some behind the scenes stuff too that probably not best to get into here, but there's extenuating circumstances behind several of the situations too that are interesting. But in general, I think Wilcox runs the type of program where there's not a lot of drama and there's not a lot of ego. There's not a lot of paranoia. And it was sort of a unique mix of things this year that I think led to more aggressive losses. I think, if Cal has a solid year this year and Wilcox is back, I don't expect to see that much turnover unless things in the NIL portal market change a lot again this upcoming season.
So a question from Dave. Dave said, I was surprised that three guys from last season are starting on the offensive line. Did that surprise you? We seem a lot bigger. Do you think we'll be better?
Definitely better. I really like the new offensive line coach, Famika Anai. What he did at New Mexico last year was kind of a miracle worker. He came in from a tiny program in Texas, didn't inherit any returning players from the old team at New Mexico in 2023, and they were terrible anyway. I don't know that he would have wanted any of those guys back. Brought in a bunch of no-name guys, and they ended up leading the nation in sacks allowed with 5. And he said none of them were given up by the offensive line. He said they gave up none, and they were fourth in the country in rushing. This is for a no-name program that was terrible the year before and didn't bring in big name players. So he's been a big addition to the offensive line, and he did bring in a lot of big bodies. He brought in one of his former players, and I like the fact that they're deep with guys that I don't think there would be a drop off if there's injuries or they want to rotate, and they haven't really had that in the past. They wanted to really challenge Nick Morrow and Sioape Vadakani to up their games and to stay healthy and to get stronger in order to win their spots back. And for most of fall camp and a lot of spring, they didn't start. So the fact that they are now says that they played their way into the starting lineup. And I like a lot of the guys that were added that aren't starting. So that tells me they're developing nicely under an eye and getting stronger too. I mean, if you saw the week 2 video with that was focused on the offensive line, Sioape was interviewed for a couple of minutes, and he looked noticeably leaner, and he also looked much more engaged and motivated. And I think that's sort of symptomatic of what this group has seen this year with the new offensive line coaching staff that's come in. I don't really know, honestly, how they're going to function as a unit because the offensive line is a unit that it's really five guys that need to work in tandem. And you could have two or three guys that are real solid and a weak link or two, and the line can be ineffective. So without me being able to see them run together for at least a few practices, I can't have a strong opinion. But I do have a lot more optimism about the line this year than last year. Last year, when you asked me for a win prediction, I had to adjust down to 7 wins, and they should have had more if they didn't blow 3 games. But I adjusted down because I didn't like what I saw from the line in fall camp. They just didn't look good at all. And from what I've seen of the line this year, they're a lot more physical and aggressive and effective. Better run blocking than pass blocking right now, but we'll see how that shapes up during the season.
Joe's asking, Cal lost, I think you alluded to this just now. Cal lost at least a couple of games last season due to poor place kicking performance. Do you think the new Cal kickers are going to be are going to perform well this season?
Well, I don't know. Better, yes. Meyer has a pretty good accuracy rate as far as I've seen, and the other kicker, let's see, Murray. He's got a bigger leg, so it could be a situation where they platoon in field goal kicking, where Meyer kicks maybe 45 and in, and Murray longer distances. But I think accuracy is the highest value they're placing on their field goal kicking. So Meyer seems to be a little bit better with that, but Murray booms the kickoffs. He every kickoff in the most recent scrimmage was 5 to 7 yards deep in the end zone, and not so with Meyer. So I think that Murray will be the kickoff guy and Meyer will be the place kicker. And I don't expect a great season as far as field goals go, but I expect it to be a decent amount better than it was last year.
Hey, Steve is asking, have you ever seen a Cal fall camp that was more secretive in terms of public and media access?
No, not at all. I'm used to going to every practice until they close it for game prep, which is usually a week and a half or so before the season opener. And I've never seen anything like this. So the question we're asking amongst ourselves, is this a Harsin thing? Is this a Rivera thing? Or is it just a sign of the times? We keep hearing that a lot of programs don't have any open practices in the spring or the fall. That's not been our experience here, and I hope it's not the new normal, but um, maybe they'll ease up a little bit if they start to have success and develop the confidence to say, hey, we've got no secrets. We're just going to beat you in the trenches.
Paul's asking, will the wide receivers block this year?
Well, every year we hear no block, no rock, but there's been no block most of the time, regardless, and they still throw the ball. I do think that Coach Cal Cefalo is more of a technical coach. He's a more well-rounded coach. His guys tend to be more physical blocking downfield. So I don't think that it's going to be an elite blocking downfield team, but I do think we're going to probably see a significant improvement. And I've seen some of that in the practices that I've been to.
Dave also says, Wilcox seems to be very conservative as a head coach and has cost us some games. Do you think he'll really let Harsin be more aggressive on offense this year?
Yeah, I do. I don't think he's going to intervene too much on that front unless, it's a situation where it's late in the game and maybe Harsin really wants to roll the dice. Maybe he'll check him on that. But I think it's pretty much going to be Harsin's deal this year.
Okay. Leslie just had a comment. Fernando's exit, based on his view that he was never good enough and his replacement was always being sought, provides a good reason why they're taking talent and potential over experience with naming JKS as a starter. Just want to say, let's make sure that this talented young man feels like he has a solid home at Cal.
Well, the Mendoza situation was unique. His he came in a two-star quarterback, and naturally there's going to be some skepticism when you're bringing in a guy who's kind of a roster filler guy when he initially comes in. Then he gets playing time by default because the other guys are so terrible or injured. And then he had that sort of Eddie Haskell personality where sometimes you're not really sure the guy's an alpha type of guy when they're like that way, a people pleaser. So it's unique. I mean, you don't see guys like Mendoza very often, and I kind of get why he wasn't taken as seriously as he would have liked to have been. So I don't see that even being slightly close to the same dynamic as it is with Jaron this year. Jaron loves it here, and he was more than happy to bail on Oregon when Mendoza took off when he wasn't feeling it up there. So I'm not worried about his comfort level and his confidence here, unless you know his lack of play on the field is leading to a lack of confidence, and hopefully we won't see that this year.
David's question, another question is, what happened with Devin Brown? He sounded very athletic. Is he just not a good passer? I had heard that he didn't have that strong of an arm.
I don't think arm strength is really a problem with him. I think it's more making the right decisions when the bullets are flying. I think he's fast. He's a better, to me, he's a better runner than Garbers was, and Garbers was a solid runner. But when it came down to the 11 on 11s and the live scrimmages, live practices, he wasn't as good. His decision making just wasn't where you'd want it to be. He'd take off running maybe a little bit too fast. He just wasn't moving the chains enough. And really, what offense amounts to is moving the chains. It's not about impressing people with how you throw a 15-yard out or a fly, how style points, how you look back there in the backfield. It's about moving the chains. And Cal didn't move the chains nearly often enough last year. And he wasn't moving the chains often enough when I saw him out there. So I think that's what that's about mainly.
Mhm. I'm going to ask you my question. I asked Angie too. Is this, how can a coach, or how can anybody evaluate a program when the transfer portal creates this basically an entire new team after spring practices?
Well, it's almost impossible to evaluate it when you're not there.
No, that's especially true for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being there for three scrimmages, I've seen more of the action in the fall than most people have, but three isn't enough, especially when the third scrimmage was fourth and fifth string guys. Um, I think you just have to see how guys gel, how their skill sets fits into a coaching style, how their skill sets fit into a particular type of offense or defense. Are they leaders? Are they alpha guys? Or are they guys that kind of disappear when it gets tougher out there, when they make a mistake? I really like the character of the guys they brought in. I really like the way this team has gelled. The players are just they love each other. They're really happy to be here, and they really genuinely like each other. And that's not always been the case. I've been covering the team when there was a distinct division between offense and defense, or between ethnicities, where there wasn't a lot of interaction between black players and white players. There doesn't seem to be any kind of division here at all with the program, and I think that's one of the things that's underrated when it comes to building a successful program, especially when you're bringing in over half your rosters being new guys. It's almost close to two-thirds of the scholarship guys being new players this year. So chemistry is huge, and they do have the chemistry. So that's a big check mark that they have right there.
And Dave just asked in the chat, do you think the House settlement will settle down the transferring a little bit? Do you think we'll see these, any kind of multi-year deals in the future?
I think it'll calm it down a little bit, but I think we saw more crazy action this year because programs wanted to get in ahead of the settlement and spend as much money as they could, and go as crazy as they could before there were more regulations. So I think it'll help it a little bit, but I think it's still going to be the Wild West in the portal area, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah. So Dwayne's asking, of the transfer portal players we got, who do you think will impress the most, and who do you think will be the biggest surprise?
I think at cornerback, Austin is a guy that I think is going to make waves and help people remember Noel Williams a little bit. I really think the running back group is underrated. They hit the hole hard and they don't go down easily and they're quick. I think they fit Harson's offense really well. I'm interested to see how Mark Hamper does at receiver. He was very productive at Idaho before he transferred to Wisconsin and then bounced over to Cal. And he's got pretty good size too, good possession receiver. I really like Jacob DeJesus. He's going to be a guy that's going to excite a lot of Cal fans. Um, Anybody who watched the bowl game against UNLV will remember what he did to Cal on both kick returns, punt returns, and receiving. He's a guy that I think is a little underrated, and I think will excite a lot of fans this year. Um, on the defense, also TJ Bush is a guy that they haven't named a starter opposite Ryan McCulloch, but I kind of think he'll be the guy. He's a big guy, 6'3", 265 for an edge guy, and he's super active. I think he's going to make some waves out there. So those are some of the guys I think that came in through the portal that have probably the best chance of standing out early. And also there's a couple of portal guys that are starting right now, Jordan Moko and Tyson Ruffins at guard and center. Those guys have been real solid through spring and fall, and I wouldn't be surprised to see one or two of the other portal guys end up starting at some point, either based on talent or injuries that can bring something to the team as well.
Okay, that's all the questions that we had in chat. Yeah, Steve was having a better offensive line this year. Yeah, you kind of talked about that. That it looks like which it almost has to be. Last year was pretty bad. So yeah, we have a better offensive line this year. So we typically don't ask you this, but what are your thoughts on the game this weekend in terms of who's going to come out ahead?
I'm super confident that Cal is going to win this game. It's a combination of me believing that they're a better team than Oregon State talent-wise, but also about Oregon State being overrated. I know they made a little bit of improvements on the margins, but I just don't think they stack up well against Power Four teams this season. And I know it's on the road. I know it's at Corvallis where Cal struggled on occasion, but I do expect Cal to have a solid win. I think they might start slow, like I said, first or second series. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 3-and-out once or twice before they find their rhythm. But I'd solidly expect to win. I'd be very surprised if they lose that game.
Mhm. Yeah, I was kind of surprised at the odds myself, Oregon State being favored only by 3, which is the home field advantage. But especially after what Angie was saying today, that there's question marks on the line, and if our line's that much improve, it should help us out. And then plus we really clobbered them last year.
Yeah, they were kind of a disaster last year. And that's with Cal kicking a lot of field goals. They still scored 49 points on them,
Right.
or field goal attempts, I should say. Um, I just don't see them being able to bridge a 42-point gap from last season. There's nothing that causes me to feel like this Cal team is worse than the Cal team last year, or they're significantly better than their team last year.
Mhm. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions in chat. Jim, thanks again. It's always great to have you here for the first week to give us a little bit of insight. And I realize that the athletic department didn't help you out a whole lot this year, but appreciate your being here. And thanks again. I see comments coming in on chat. Everybody's enjoying what you had to say and thanking you for being here. So,
Always glad to help out, and I'll wave when I go to the Lost 80s concert after the Oregon State game. I'm flying back Sunday afternoon to get back for that up in the Thunder Valley Casino in Lincoln.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we got you. We're all up here. So most of us are
Yeah.
up here. So yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks, Jim. And thank you everybody for joining us. That's it for tonight. Remember, we have the watch party at Clubhouse 56 for the Oregon State game this year, or this Saturday, 7:30, and it is on ESPN. So if you're not going to be at the watch party and you're not going to be up at Corvallis, ESPN, and go ahead and put in chat. Dave's wondering if anybody is heading up to Corvallis, so let him know there. And again, watch for more events coming up, not just football related, but there's a few things coming up on the horizon from SacCal alumni that we're planning. And also keep an eye out, because I hope to have Ron Rivera, and then also have Jay Larson and Jenny Simon O'Neill here coming up in the future on Zoom. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being here, and we hope to see you at more of the SacCal alumni events. And with that, let's bring home a victory in Oregon, and go Bears.
Go Bears. Thanks,
Bears.
Gary.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye, Gary.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Good job, Gary.
Oh, thanks, Greg. I gotta stop the recording here. There we go.